300 years ago, an ancestor of the powerful Clark family, the wealthiest in the capital, passed by the abandoned baby tower in the city and made a careless, cruel remark. Girls are useless, they deserve to die. That single phrase cursed all male descendants of the Clarks for generations. From then on, every man in the family underwent a horrific transformation upon turning 25. They grew breasts and even a uterus, as if their bodies were turning into women from the inside out. But there was a way to break the curse. Marry a woman who possessed the rare blessing capable of breaking it. My sister and I were born with that blessing. In my previous life, Tristan came to our house to ask for my sister's hand, but I saw his true intentions and fought with all my strength to stop it. In the end, they forced him to marry me. On our wedding night, my sister mysteriously disappeared. Later, they found a letter in which she expressed her sadness for losing the man she loved. Days later, her body was found near a cliff. That's why my parents called me cruel, and Tristan hated me with every fiber of his being. On the 7th day after my sister's death, he tied me to a helicopter as a cruel joke and lifted me into the air. I cried and begged him to let me down. He finally released the rope and I fell. The impact left me unconscious. When I woke up, I was back in the past, just before everything happened. But when I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Tristan came to ask for a bride capable of breaking the curse. This time I wanted to see with my own eyes how Bianca would save him without her supposed blessing. "Father, mother, I want to marry her," Tristan declared, pointing to my sister as she entered the room in her white dress with graceful steps. As he spoke, he shot me a threatening look full of warnings. At that moment, I understood. He had been reborn too. My sister tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and asked sweetly, "Mother, father, who are they?" Our parents smiled proudly and introduced her to the Clark family. I couldn't help but let out a mocking smile, as if they hadn't been hiding together all this time. Now she was pretending to be innocent. Tired of watching them act, I stood up to leave, but Tristan's voice stopped me. He looked at me with contempt and said, "Alois, don't even think about starting with that nonsense about being the only one who can break the curse. I will never marry you. You're ugly and pathetic, so give up." His parents scolded him, but he raised his voice even more. "Father, mother, this curse is just a stupid rumor. It's been 300 years, why would it still matter?" Mr. Clark hit him on the head and shouted, "Idiot, the only reason none of us have transformed is because we've always married women with the blessing. Your 25th birthday is next week, Tristan. We can't delay any longer." Mrs. Clark's eyes were red with worry. "It's true, son. I myself am a curse breaker. That's why your father married me. We searched for over 20 years and finally found 2 girls with the same blessing. Please don't be reckless now." But stubborn Tristan pointed to my sister again and repeated, "Then I'll marry her. She has the same blessing, but I'll never marry Alois. If you force me, I'd rather die right here." I laughed to myself, cold as ice. So this whole scene was just an act to silence everyone. In my previous life, when he announced he wanted to marry my sister, I stepped forward and clearly stated in front of everyone, "He can't marry my sister. She can't save him, only I can." Tristan exploded, yelling that I was overestimating myself. My parents also doubted me, as they always favored my sister. Only Mr. and Mrs. Clark took me seriously. After a private conversation, they decided to force Tristan to marry me, thinking it was better to risk the wrong wife than to lose him entirely. But they never knew the truth because my sister and I are twins, bound by blood, and I could see a secret no one else knew, not even her. Yes, she had the same blessing in appearance, but if he married her, it wouldn't save him, it would destroy him. In my past life, after my sister's suicide, I tried to tell my parents the truth, but they refused to listen. They even called me cruel and heartless and cut off all contact with me. I tried to tell Tristan too, but instead of listening, he tied me to a helicopter and let me fall to my death. I was nothing but a pool of blood and broken bones when I hit the ground. It wasn't until my last breath that I understood the truth. He and my sister had always been together. She didn't kill herself because I stole her love. She took her own life because she discovered the secret hidden in her own body, and it terrified her. The memory shook me. I could still feel the pain of the fall, the waves of suffering returning like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. But this time I wouldn't play the heroine. I'd let them destroy each other. "Don't worry, Tristan," I said firmly and calmly. "You're not the man I want to marry." I looked at him steadily, then turned to everyone with a polite nod. "I'll take my leave." As I walked away, I heard my parents trying to smooth things over with the Clark family. "Our eldest daughter has always been a bit strange. She's not even pretty. Please forgive her." A dull pain settled in my chest. Since we were children, they always favored my sister just because she was born a few seconds after me. I always had to yield, step aside, and let her shine. When I discovered her secret and tried to tell our mother, she accused me of being jealous. Father pinned all his hopes on my sister, his beautiful, obedient daughter who, according to him, could marry into high society and elevate our family. They never really cared about me, and now I wouldn't care about them either. I pulled out my phone and opened a message from 3 days ago. "I accept your marriage proposal," I replied, "but I have one condition." That same night, fearing I'd ruin his plans, Tristan leaked the news that he would marry the second daughter of our family. The wedding was set for a week later, the day he turned 25. Coincidentally, it was the same day I planned to get married too. Over the next 2 days, the man I agreed to marry sent people every day to escort me to dress fittings and banquet tastings. I was exhausted and tempted to give up, but he was sincere. "You saved my life," he said, "and you're the only woman I want to marry, so the wedding must be grand. I won't let you settle for less." His deep, earnest gaze made my heart race for a moment. In my past life, he had approached me too, but I was already promised to Tristan, so I rejected him coldly and decisively. Later, I learned he took his own life. The guilt haunted me for a long time, but back then, I only cared about saving my sister and my parents from the wrath of the Clarks. I was willing to sacrifice everything for them. But this time, I'd choose myself. I'd save the people I wanted to save and live the life I wanted to live. 3 days before the wedding, he told me he was flying abroad to pick out a diamond worthy of me. "Eloise," he said, holding my hand gently, "I'll send someone to pick you up tomorrow. You'll love the wedding dress, I promise." Then he got into the car and headed to the airport. The next day, I saw the dress, and it was stunning. The boutique owner told me they had rushed over 100 designers to finish it in time. They even named it after me. The moment I put it on, the entire room seemed to light up. Even my usually plain features looked striking in the mirror. Then I heard a too familiar voice. "Tristan, I love the dress she's wearing." I turned and met Tristan's gaze. For a moment, I saw surprise in his eyes, but it quickly turned into a mocking sneer. "Eloise," he scoffed, "what are you doing here? Did you hear we were coming to try on dresses and show up just to ruin our day?" Bianca threw herself into our mother's arms and whined, "Mother, do you think she's upset because we didn't invite her?" My parents immediately pounced on me. "You spoiled brat," my mother snapped. "So this is where you were hiding, trying to bother your sister on purpose. Take off that dress and get out. What's wrong with you?" My father spat venomously. "Are you so desperate to get married? You're a disgrace to the entire family." I let out a cold laugh and replied firmly, "I'm 23 years old. Since when do I need your permission to go anywhere or do anything? And this wedding dress is mine. No one's taking it from me." "Ungrateful," my father shouted, pointing at me, his face red with fury. My mother lunged at the dress like a madwoman. "Your sister wants it, so take it off now." I tried to resist, but Tristan grabbed both my arms and pinned me down. I was wearing only simple underwear beneath the dress. As he held me, the dress slipped slightly and I felt exposed. Shame washed over me instantly. Tears threatened to spill, and when he noticed, he finally let me go so I could change. When I came out of the fitting room, I saw Bianca already wearing my dress, a triumphant look on her face as if she'd just won a prize. "I told you," I said, clenching my fists, "that dress is mine." I tried to call the manager, but my mother yanked me back. "Roughly Sinhala, si Soinus. System harshly, "Are you going to keep embarrassing us? That dress was made for someone beautiful like your sister. Stop dreaming." My father snatched my phone and growled, "Go home and think about your behavior. You're grounded until your sister's wedding in 2 days is over." As I continued to protest, Tristan ordered his bodyguards to drag me out and put me in the car. He leaned close to my ear and whispered with a low laugh, "Eloise, so this is what they call playing hard to get. You came here on purpose, didn't you, just to get my attention?" Then he slipped a key into my hand and added, "Behave and I'll spend the first half of the wedding night with your sister and the second half with you." Disgusted, I spat in his face. "What kind of filth are you? So full of garbage you can't contain it. You're repulsive." His smile vanished and his face darkened. "Ungrateful wretch. Who else would want someone like you? You'd better think carefully." With that, he ordered the guards to take me home. There they locked me in my room. I ground my teeth in rage. 2 more days, I couldn't wait to see Tristan's transformation. Neither man nor woman, just a monster. And when that happened, the Clarks would blame my sister and my parents first. I had to find a way to cut ties before then. That night, I caused a scene, smashing furniture, throwing things, and making so much noise no one could sleep. But my parents still refused to let me out. With no other choice, I started a fire. Half the property burned down, so my parents called me a jinx and disowned me forever. In the chaos, I grabbed my phone and called my fiancé. He didn't ask a single question, just sent someone to pick me up and take me to a luxurious, empty villa. For the next 2 days, I slept well, rested, and waited for the wedding day. The screech of tires on gravel snapped me out of my thoughts. It had been only 2 days since the chaos at my parents' house. The fire, the screams, the insults, and now I was finally here. I stepped out of the black car without looking back. The villa before me looked like a dream, white, with clean lines and large windows reflecting the night sky, surrounded by silent gardens and murmuring fountains. It was modern, elegant, but not cold, the kind of place no one would know existed unless he wanted them to. Leonard Voss, that was his name. He saved me from my family's hell, and I still didn't know why. Door opened before I could knock, and there he was. Young, maybe not much older than me, with dark brown hair swept back, not a strand out of place. A strong, clean-shaven jaw, serious lips, and gray eyes so sharp they seemed to dissect the soul. He wore black, elegant, without ostentation. He didn't smile. "Alois," he said simply, as if he'd known me his whole life. "Leonard," I replied, not moving. He stepped aside, inviting me in. I crossed the threshold with a firm step, but my heart pounded. I didn't trust anyone, not after everything I'd been through. "You look tired," he noted, observing me closely but differently. I stopped in the middle of the spacious room with its understated furniture and windows overlooking the dark sea. "Having all your bridges burned changes you," I said. Leonard nodded and approached calmly, his steps silent on the marble. "Here you don't have to pretend. I don't want a decorative wife or a puppet. If you agreed, I want it to be real." His words caught me off guard. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. I looked down for a second. "I agreed because I had nothing left," I admitted, "but I won't be a victim again." He didn't take offense. Instead, he gave a faint smile, just a glimmer. "Then we have a deal," he said. "You don't pretend and I don't lie. I'll take care of you, Alois, but I want you to trust me with time, not now." I didn't respond, but for the first time in years, something in my chest loosened a little. He showed me to the room that would be mine and left me to rest. As I lay on the soft sheets, staring at the ceiling, I knew this was only the beginning. Leonard Voss, mysterious, cold, and perhaps my only way out, or maybe the one who could mend what was broken in me. The morning came sooner than expected. The sun barely peeked through the white curtains, and for a moment I allowed myself to forget where I was. But the constant, distant sound of the sea brought me back. I dressed slowly, no dresses, no elegant clothes that reminded me of my family or their expectations, just comfortable pants and a black blouse. Leonard was waiting on the terrace, seated at a table with a coffee cup in hand, gazing at the horizon with that impassive expression I was starting to recognize. He wore a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and dark pants, his hair slightly damp and falling messily over his forehead. He looked less like a cold millionaire and more human. "Good morning," he greeted without taking his eyes off the sea. I sat across from him without responding, taking the cup left for me bitter coffee perfect. "You have an appointment today," he announced after a comfortable silence. I looked at him, raising an eyebrow. "An appointment? I don't recall agreeing to that." Leonard smiled faintly, a twitch at the corner of his lips. "It's with a jeweler. I had your engagement ring made. They'll show it to you today." I set the cup down, intrigued. An engagement ring. What for? This wasn't a normal marriage. Leonard looked at me, serious. "Exactly because of that. Nothing about us is normal, but if you're going to carry my name, I want you to wear something worthy of you." I pressed my lips together. I doubted everyone's intentions, but there was something in his tone, his words, that sounded genuine, and after all, I had nothing to lose. The jewelry boutique was tucked away on one of the city's most exclusive streets, discreet, no windows, no public, just a dark wooden door and a silver logo. Leonard's assistant, silent and polite in black, accompanied me. He didn't speak the entire way. Inside, the jeweler awaited, a refined older man with white hair and a perfectly trimmed mustache, wearing gloves and holding a small black velvet box. "Miss Alois," he greeted, bowing his head. "It's an honor. Your fiancé has been demanding and generous." I opened the box without knowing what to expect. The ring took my breath away, a diamond clear as crystal, but its shape was unusual. Carved into its surface with almost impossible precision were delicate ancient symbols, like runes. It wasn't just a jewel, it was a talisman. "This," I murmured, unable to look away. "What is it?" The jeweler smiled, pleased. "A unique piece, the Atarus diamond. In ancient times, it was said that whoever wore it was protected from misfortune and curses." My heart skipped a beat. Leonard knew. He knew about the Clark family curse. The jeweler explained that Leonard had personally traveled to a distant country, negotiated with private collectors, and secured this ancient, legend-shrouded gem. I slipped the ring on, feeling not just its physical weight but its symbolic one, the cool touch of the diamond on my skin, the silent promise of protection. As I admired myself in the mirror, I heard voices at the entrance, a voice I'd recognize anywhere. "Tristan." The air grew heavy. The jeweler, without losing his composure, closed the box and stepped back. I turned slowly, and there he was, Tristan, tall, arrogant, with his dark hair perfectly styled, his chiseled face and eyes full of disdain. Beside him, Bianca, radiant, beautiful, smiling as if it were all a game. Her eyes met mine. For a second, I saw surprise, then contempt. "Well, well," he mocked, "I didn't know jewelers now served second-rate sisters." Bianca clung to his arm, smiling. "She must be desperate," she whispered, feigning compassion. I didn't respond, just looked at the ring on my finger. Tristan saw it, and something in his expression changed for a split second. Panic. He knew the diamond, and he feared it. I approached slowly, a cold smile on my face. "We'll see each other soon, Tristan," I said softly, "sooner than you think." I turned and left the boutique, leaving behind his tense gaze and Bianca's fake face. I gripped the ring on my finger. It was no longer just an ornament, it was a weapon, and I wouldn't waste it. The sound of applause, camera flashes, and elegant music floated in the air like a dense, sticky cloud, impossible to ignore. I sat at the back of the hall, hidden among the guests, with an untouched glass of champagne in my hand and a heart beating with calculated coldness. Tristan and Bianca's wedding, everything in the venue screamed perfection. The hall was adorned with white orchids and pale roses, crystal chandeliers and velvet curtains. The guests, dressed in gala attire, smiled, whispered, speculated. No one suspected the truth hidden beneath that mask of happiness, except me. Leonard was at my side, impassive, wearing an impeccable black tuxedo, his hair swept back, his expression closed off. No one dared approach him too closely. There was something about his presence that commanded distance and protection. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly without looking at me. I gripped the glass tightly, more than ever. The music changed, the doors at the back opened. Bianca appeared, wearing a fitted, shimmering white dress with delicate lace and a long train. Her golden hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, her face perfectly made up with that sweet, false expression she mastered. The guests sighed, some applauded. I merely watched her with narrowed eyes. Tristan waited at the altar, standing tall, elegant in his dark gray suit, his black hair perfectly styled. He looked like the perfect man, the ideal son-in-law, the dream heir, but I knew what he hid behind that arrogant smile. As Bianca advanced, I noticed something. Her initially perfect walk became stiffer, her shoulders tense, her face pale, too pale. Leonard noticed too. "It started," he murmured, not taking his eyes off her. Bianca faltered for a second but continued, forcing herself to smile. The flashes went on, the murmurs blended with the music. The ceremony began. The officiant's empty words echoed in the air. "Today we celebrate the union of two destined souls." Lies, empty words. Bianca was trembling, barely noticeable, but I saw it. Her hands shook, a fine sheen of sweat glistened on her forehead. Tristan looked at her, his jaw tight, his dark eyes fixed on her, not with tenderness but with anger and fear. He whispered something in her ear, too low for us to hear. Bianca nodded, swallowing hard. The guests remained smiling, oblivious to the invisible drama. The officiant called for the rings, presented on a velvet tray. I touched my own ring, the Atarus diamond, as a reminder. The crucial moment arrived. Tristan took Bianca's hand, his expression faltering for a split second before he released her, hiding it behind his mask of perfection. Bianca looked like she might faint, but forced herself to stay upright. They said their vows, sealed the pact with a kiss. Applause thundered through the hall, but I saw only cracks, fissures in their flawless facade. I knew what was coming. The curse was awakening, and nothing, not their lies nor their secret alliances, could stop it now. Leonard leaned toward me, his breath brushing my ear. "It's all falling apart. We just have to wait." I smiled coldly, raising my glass. For once, it wasn't me falling to pieces. It was their turn. Didn't take long. That same night, social media filled with perfect photos. Bianca dazzling, Tristan imposing, fake smiles, rehearsed embraces, celebrating guests. Yet I knew something rotten lay beneath those images. Leonard and I returned to the villa in silence. He didn't need to say it, but I saw it in his face. The curse was already in motion. "It'll be quick," he murmured, removing his jacket with a tired gesture. "The Clarks think they're in control. They're wrong." I nodded, watching notifications flood my phone, news, comments, rumors, but nothing about what really mattered. No one mentioned Bianca's pallor, her trembling. No one noticed Tristan losing color in his lips, his eyes shining with impossible-to-hide unease. The next morning, the first whispers began. Leaked photos, blurry images of Tristan leaving the Clarks' private clinic, hidden under a coat, escorted by bodyguards. Forum comments speculated. "He's sick, health issues, post-wedding stress." I laughed to myself. Leonard handed me an envelope. "You'll want to see this." Inside were documents, medical reports, confidential photos. Tristan in a hospital, baffled doctors, altered hormone results, his body beginning to change slowly, irreversibly. I read every word, every detail, a wave of satisfaction washing over me. Finally, I understood what I hadn't seen in time in my previous life. The transformation wasn't immediate, but once it started, it didn't stop. By the end of that week, he would be neither man nor woman, a monster trapped in his own body, betrayed by the very curse he always dismissed. But not just him, Bianca was paying the price too. "Do you think she knows?" I asked quietly. Leonard sat across from me, hands clasped. "She knows something, but not everything. Your parents played with fire when they tampered with your sister's blessing. Now they're paying for it." I nodded, my gaze fixed on the ring on my finger. The Atarus diamond glowed faintly under the light, protecting me. They had nothing. Hours later, as the city slept, I received an unexpected message from Bianca. "We need to talk." No apologies, no fake sweetness, just fear. The curse had awakened, and everyone, even she, knew it. The phone still glowed on the table, displaying her message. I ignored it, not because I didn't want to see her fall, but because I no longer played by their rules. I leaned back in the armchair, feeling the soft texture of the upholstery under my fingers. Leonard, sitting nearby, read calmly, as if everything unfolding was just another puzzle to solve. But the past always finds a way to return. The next day, the digital newspapers exploded with the news. The police were reopening the investigation into the fire at my parents' mansion. Your parents, Leonard commented, skimming a report, are desperate. I nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. Photos of the charred house, sensational headlines. Intentional fire, millions in damages, family suspicions. My parents had tried to publicly blame me without success. Now the law was closing in, and not because of me. Leonard had moved his pieces, security footage, employee testimonies, all pointing to my parents' negligence, faulty wiring, disabled alarms, known and ignored risks. It was perfect. The media began to devour them, their society friends turned their backs, and the reputation they'd so carefully guarded crumbled like ashes in the wind. My mother appeared on television, made up, trying to maintain composure, but tears soon broke her voice. My father stood behind, rigid, defeated. I felt no pity. They had thrown me away when I needed them most, locked me up, humiliated me, treated me like a burden. Now they tasted their own medicine. Do you want me to continue? Leonard asked, closing the folder. I can destroy them completely. I thought for a moment. The old Alois, the one who still craved love and acceptance, hesitated, but that Alois was dead. Do it, I said. I don't care what happens to them. Leonard nodded, satisfied. The phone buzzed again, another message from Bianca. Please, it's not what you think. Help me. I laughed silently. Too late, sister. Too late to feign innocence. As my parents sank in shame and the police closed in, Bianca was about to learn what it was to be truly alone, just as they had left me. The following days passed in an eerie silence. Outside, the world shook with my parents' scandals and public humiliation in high society circles. Their names became synonymous with disgrace, but inside the villa a deceptive calm reigned. Leonard worked in his office, always impeccable, his dark hair in place, his gaze sharp. I wandered the house, tangled in my own thoughts, until I found the library, a large room with ceiling-high shelves, thick carpets, and the unmistakable scent of old paper. I got lost among the books, some on law, others on history. In a corner I saw it, a dark wooden chest, discreet, locked with an ancient clasp. Curiosity got the better of me. Leonard trusted me, or so he said, and I had the right to know anything that could protect me. The lock wasn't complicated, it took only minutes to open. Inside were yellowed documents, old letters, photographs, and an envelope with my name. My heart stopped for a second. I opened it, medical records, birth certificates, and at the bottom, a strange report filled with ancient symbols. I read with fixed eyes, the carefully written text detailing rituals before our birth, genetic manipulations, adjustments to force Bianca to carry the same blessing as me, though her body wasn't built for it. My blood ran cold. That explained everything, why her blessing was unstable, why her body was collapsing from within, and worse, why Tristan's curse was advancing uncontrollably. My parents knew. They had authorized those rituals, so obsessed with Bianca's perfection, with making her the ideal wife for the Clarks, that they destroyed her nature from the start. I closed my eyes, absorbing the truth. I was never the strange sister. I was the original, the true blessed one. Bianca was just a flawed copy. The weight of the revelation settled on my shoulders. I felt no pity, only a bitter void. You found it, Leonard's voice sounded behind me. I turned. He leaned against the doorway, his expression unreadable. You knew, I stated, holding up the documents. Leonard nodded, stepping into the room. I didn't want you to find out like this, but it's better you know everything. I sat, the envelope still in my hands. Why keep this? Why hide it from me? Leonard approached, his gaze soft for the first time. Because I knew you'd need it, and because until you were ready, I wouldn't force you to face it all. I studied his voice, his demeanor. No lies, just pragmatism and perhaps a spark of genuine protection. I gripped the papers to my chest. For the first time in years, I fully understood who I was and why Bianca could never save Tristan or herself. It didn't take long for Bianca to finally break. Her insistent messages filled my phone, first pleas, then thinly veiled threats, finally pure fear. Then she showed up at the villa, unannounced, uninvited, barging in dressed in white, pale, trembling, with swollen eyes from crying. Her golden curls fell messily over her shoulders, her makeup smudged. Leonard let her in without protest, looked at me and said, "Stay calm, you have to face this." I nodded, my heart pounding. Bianca lunged at me the moment she saw me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Alois, please, I don't know what to do." Her voice broke, her hands shaking. I stepped back, cold. "Start by not lying." Bianca froze, her face crumbling. "No, it wasn't my fault," she stammered. "Mother and father, they did this to me. I didn't know." I watched her. Her once perfect skin now looked sallow, her eyes held a sickly glint. Under her dress, I noticed her wrists were red, as if her body was rebelling. Tristan's transformation was evident, but Bianca's was worse. Her body wasn't designed to sustain that stolen blessing, and now she was paying the price. "I warned you," I said without compassion, "but you chose to ignore me. You chose the easy path, the lie." Bianca collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "I thought he loved me, that together we could." Anger surged through me. Love, she called her secret alliance with Tristan, her betrayal, her disdain for me. Love, Leonard stayed back, watching silently. Bianca clung to my arm, her gaze pleading. You're the only one who can stop this. Please help me. I pulled free, repulsed. You chose this lie, I told her. Now live with the consequences. Bianca crumpled, defeated. She knew what was coming. Her body, her perfect face, her entire life, everything would collapse, just like Tristan, just like the house of cards they built on lies, and I would finally watch them fall. The invitation arrived 2 days later, elegant, golden, dripping with hypocrisy. A gala ball hosted by the Clarks, officially a celebration of Tristan and Bianca's wedding, an event to bolster their image amid the growing rumors. But I knew the truth. It was a desperate attempt to mask the chaos, hide the cracks, and above all, quell suspicions about Tristan's health. Leonard looked at me, holding the invitation between his long, elegant fingers. Are you going? He asked with a slight smile. I nodded without hesitation. It's the perfect stage. Preparations were swift. Leonard handled everything, the dress, the transport, the security. He wanted us to enter like a silent declaration of war. On the night of the ball, I looked in the mirror. I wore a fitted black dress, elegant with subtle silver embroidery resembling runes, a discreet nod to the Atarus diamond still shining on my finger. My hair loose, lips red. I was no longer the insecure, invisible Alois. I was someone to fear. Leonard, impeccable in a tuxedo, approached and offered his arm. Ready to destroy them, he asked. I smiled coldly, more than ever. The hall was packed, classical music, champagne glasses, shimmering dresses, expensive suits. The entire elite had shown up. The Clarks, too. Tristan stood beside Bianca, looking like a painted corpse, pale, sunken eyes, tense lips. His dark hair was perfectly styled, but his skin betrayed his deterioration. Bianca could barely stand. Her face, caked with makeup, didn't hide the sickly pallor, the undeniable shadows under her eyes. Whispers floated in the air. No one said anything openly, but the doubtful glances were obvious. Leonard and I entered together. The room fell silent for a moment. All eyes turned to me, Alois, the disowned daughter, the family shame, reappearing strong, serene, untouchable. I approached the Clarks with Leonard at my side and smiled. Good evening, I greeted softly. Tristan glared at me, his hatred poorly disguised. Bianca avoided my gaze, trembling. Then Leonard pulled out the documents, photos, medical reports, ancient records, all carefully prepared. He placed them on a tray a waiter took, discreetly delivering them to key journalists and figures in the room. The documents spread like wildfire. Rumors erupted, murmurs, glances, shock, scandal. The Clarks were trapped. Tristan clenched his teeth, furious. Bianca collapsed into a nearby chair, too weak to pretend. Leonard offered me a glass of champagne. Cheers, he said with a half-smile. I raised my glass. The game was over, and I was the one setting the rules now. The gala hall, hours earlier buzzing with music and forced laughter, was now wrapped in uncomfortable silence. The documents Leonard had spread among the elite were like invisible blades, slicing through the Clarks' impeccable facade. Guests clustered in small circles, whispering, casting inquisitive glances at Tristan and Bianca. Some discreetly distanced themselves. Others, too cowardly to face the scandal, pretended nothing was wrong, but the tension was palpable. I watched from a corner, champagne glass in hand, the Atarus diamond glowing subtly on my finger. Leonard whispered calmly, "It's fascinating to watch them crumble in real time, isn't it?" I nodded but didn't respond, my attention fixed on Tristan. The once arrogant Clark heir could no longer hide his decay. Expensive makeup masked some of the pallor, but the deep circles under his eyes, the slight tremor in his hands, and the sickly glint in his eyes were undeniable. I saw him pull away from Bianca, irritated, as if her mere presence suffocated him. She slumped in a chair, could barely hold the champagne glass someone had offered her. Her translucent skin showed blue veins beneath the surface. Her perfect face was unraveling by the second. I tried to feel pity. I couldn't. The Clark scrambled to contain the situation. Mr. Clark, face hardened, spoke rapidly with his advisors. Mrs. Clark tried to calm the guests, smiling as if it were all a misunderstanding, but the disdainful looks in journalists' sneaky cameras were relentless. The whispers grew. They say Tristan's sick, something about a curse. Bianca looks terrible. Aren't they the daughters of that family now under investigation? It all smells rotten. Leonard turned to me, his expression calm. Now comes the best part. And I saw it, Tristan, defeated, crossing the hall toward me. He didn't have his usual arrogant stride. His walk was erratic, his shoulders hunched, his jaw tight. He stopped a meter away, the guests pretending to chat but missing no detail. Happy now, he spat, his voice hoarse. You ruined everything. I smiled, not breaking eye contact. I didn't. You did. I just turned on the light so everyone could see. His face twisted, fury consuming him, but behind the anger was fear. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his fingers trembled, and then I noticed it. His features were changing, subtly but undeniably. His jaw seemed finer, his cheekbones more pronounced, his lips slightly fuller. A slow, almost imperceptible process to untrained eyes, but I knew. The curse was advancing, and he knew it. He tried to hold himself together, but his body betrayed him. He stepped back, stumbling. Camera flashes captured the moment, whispers turning to scandalized murmurs. Mr. Clark intervened, grabbing his son's arm, muttering something in his ear, trying to drag him out of the hall, but it was too late. The humiliation was done. The Clarks left hurriedly, Bianca barely conscious, held up by her mother. Guests parted as if they were plagued. I stayed, watching them vanish. Leonard offered his arm. "Ready to go?" he asked. I turned to him, my heart calm for the first time in years. "Not before a toast," I replied, raising my glass once more, looking at the chaotic hall. They had fallen, and I was still standing. The news spread like wildfire. The morning papers screamed devastating headlines: the fall of the Clark dynasty, public humiliation, and rumors of genetic illness. High society turns its back on the Clarks. The secrets of the most powerful family exposed. Images of Tristan stumbling, unrecognizable, were impossible to hide. Videos showed his sharpened face, the changes in his body, his evident weakness. He was no longer the golden heir, the perfect man, just a shadow of what he pretended to be. Bianca vanished from public life. Some said she was hospitalized, others that she'd fled abroad. The truth was her body was slowly collapsing, destroyed by the curse she was never meant to bear. And I could finally breathe. I stood by the villa's windows, watching the sea crash against the rocks. For the first time in years, I felt no weight of fear, humiliation, or guilt, just emptiness and peace. Leonard entered the room, his tall, elegant figure framed by the morning light, wearing his usual white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, his dark hair disheveled, his gray eyes fixed on me. He held a small blue velvet case. I turned, curious. "What's that?" I asked, though I already suspected. Leonard smiled, that faint, almost imperceptible smile he showed only when we were alone. "Something pending," he replied, approaching. Open the case. A new ring, simpler than the Atarus diamond, but just as beautiful. A white gold band with a small blue stone at its center. No runes, no symbols of curses or protection, just a ring of promise. "Eloise," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. "This isn't a deal, a strategic pact, or a shield against your family or the Clarks." He looked at me, his expression finally sincere, vulnerable. "This is for you, for us, if you want it." I swallowed, not breaking eye contact. I wasn't a naive woman. I didn't believe in fairy tales. But I also knew how to recognize when someone offered me not lies, but the simplest, hardest truth. I removed the Atarus diamond and placed it on the table, its purpose fulfilled. I took the new ring and slipped it onto my finger, feeling the weight not of the metal, but of what it meant. "I want it," I replied without trembling. Leonard kissed my hand, his lips brushing my skin gently. There was no grand ceremony, no guests, no cameras, just us two and the certainty that I was finally choosing something or someone for myself. The Clarks were destroyed, my parents drowned in scandal, Bianca paying the price for her choices, and I stood tall, free, loved, without a curse.